Welcome back, guys. Now we're going to be doing 505422 May June 2022 Section A. ठीक है ना? Before starting, I will tell you some details about your paper. Section A will contain 45 marks while Section B will contain 30 marks. अगर आपने Section B में 30 marks लेने हैं, you will be given 3 questions and out of the 3 questions you have to attempt 2 questions and each question will be 15 marks. और आपने हर क्वेश्चन को उसकी स्पेसिफाइड जगह में करना है एंड आपने उसका यूनिट भी स्पेसिफाइड यूनिट भी आपने प्रोवाइड करना है. So yeah, having that said, let's move on. Question 1. Figure 1.1 shows a water skier pulled horizontally across the water surface. The mass of the water skier is 60 kilograms. The gravitational strength G is 10 newtons per kilogram. Calculate the weight of the water skier. The weight of the water skier will be calculated using the formula W is equals to mg. मतलब W is equals to mass into gravitational field strength. तो हमें W निकालना है तो हमारे पास M कितना है? That will be 60 and G हमारे पास कितना है? 10. तो W will be equal to 600 newtons, of course. So yeah. आगे चलते हैं. Mass and weight have different units. State two other differences between mass and weight. Mass का हमारे पास यूनिट क्या होता है? Mass का यूनिट is kilograms, while weight का यूनिट is newtons. Now, first of all, if that's out of the way, let's go into further differences. So, mass is a vector quantity. Weight W is a scalar quantity. Vector and scalar में difference क्या होता है? That vector quantities do not have a direction while the scalar quantities do. ठीक है ना? Weight के पास एक डायरेक्शन होती है. Weight is a scalar quantity. So yeah, that is one difference. जो mass होता है that is the amount of matter in an object. Mass is the amount of matter in an object. ठीक है ना? You can write that. Mass is the amount of matter in an object or it is measured in kilograms. ये हो गया. And another fun fact that 1 kilograms of mass will be the same on Earth and the Moon. So you have to keep that in mind. K 1 kilograms of mass will be the same on the Earth and the Moon. जो mass होता है ना, that does not change anywhere in the universe. The mass will stay constant. ठीक है ना? Because it is the amount of matter in an object and the matter does not change wherever it goes. ठीक है ना? On the other hand, जो weight होता है, weight is the force exerted by that ऑब्जेक्ट. अगर आपके हाथ में कोई चीज है, फॉर एग्जांपल आपके हाथ में, ये मेरे हाथ में फोन है, उसका एक फोर्स होगा विच इज इन द डाउनवर्ड डायरेक्शन जो ग्रेविटेशनल पुल के नाम से होता है, राइट? सो दैट इज अ फोर्स. द वेट exerts a force, ठीक है ना? And it will be measured in newtons. So yeah, weight is a vector. These are the tons of differences we have with mass and weight. You can write this: mass is a vector quantity, weight is a scalar quantity. You can write this: mass is the amount of matter in an object, weight is the force exerted by that object. So yeah, these are the two differences. आगे चलते हैं. C. A boat pulls the water skier to the right with a horizontal force of 50 newtons. So for example, this is the water skier and on it is exerted 50 newtons of force. 50 newtons. And which is the force है, जो force है वो किससे create हो रहा है? That is the horizontal force from the boat pulling it. जो बोट पुल कर रही है उसकी वजह से 50 न्यूटन ऑफ फोर्स इज बीइंग क्रिएटेड. The water sphere travels at a constant speed. It is traveling at a constant speed, therefore there is no resultant forces. Explain in terms of the horizontal force why the speed is constant. Why is the speed constant? It is constant because the forward force is equal to the backward force. 50 newtons backward force भी create हो रहा होगा, and therefore there is no resultant force. And as we know, for there to be an acceleration, there needs to be a resultant force. ठीक है ना? Since there is no resultant force, there is no acceleration. According to the formula, F is equals to ma, Newton's third law. ठीक है ना? So you can write that the forces are cancelled out. The forward force is due to the boat pulling the skier, while the backward force is the friction. और अगर आपको एक और फोर्स नजर आ रहा हो which is in the opposing direction. Friction and air resistance are two forces which are opposite to the motion in body in motion. ठीक है ना? So yeah, while the backward force is friction and air resistance. So those are the two backward forces. So you can write that as well. अगर आपने छोटा लिखना है, you can write the forces are balanced. 50 newtons of force is balanced by the friction and the air resistance. So yeah, that is a smaller answer. अच्छा आगे 2. The horizontal force acting on the right increases from 50 to 70. So the force is increasing and there is a resultant force of 20 newtons right now. The sizes of any forces are unchanged. Calculate the acceleration of the water skier. The acceleration of the water skier will be calculated. How? It will be calculated using the formula F is equals to ma. अगर आप इसकी extension देखें, it will be forward minus backward force is equals to mass into acceleration. आपको मैंने इनिशियली क्या बताया था? फॉरवर्ड फोर्स हो गई है 70 न्यूटन्स. इनिशियली द बैकवर्ड फोर्स एंड फॉरवर्ड फोर्स वर इक्वल. मतलब जो बैकवर्ड था वो फॉरवर्ड था. दैट इज व्हाई द रिजल्टेंट फोर्स वर जीरो. बट नाउ जो रिजल्टेंट फोर्स है दैट इज a certain value because जो forward force है that has increased from 50 to 70, while the backward force, the force of air resistance and friction, has changed have not changed and they have remained from 50 to 50, right? Or जो mass है that has not changed. Of course the mass is still 60 and the acceleration is the value we have to find out. So we have been given 20. 70 minus 50 is 20 is equals to 60 into acceleration. So 20 divided by 60 will be the answer, which is 0.333 meters per second square. So yeah, hopefully that is the answer. And yeah, that is question number one. चलो जी आगे देखते हैं. Figure 2.1 show the long cardboard tube sealed at both ends which contains many small pieces of metal. The tube is turned vertically so that the pieces of metal fall from one end to the other. तो जो tube है that is been placed like this. Vertically place कर दिया हमने tube को. ठीक है ना? The temperature of the pieces rise, increase as a result of falling. During the fall, the gravitational potential energy of the metal piece is transferred to other forms of energy. State two forms of energy to which the gravitational potential energy is transferred. सबसे पहले हम सबसे ऑब्वियस वाले की बात करेंगे. सबसे ऑब्वियस वाला जो होगा दैट विल बी फ्रिक्शन, या यू कैन से कि काइनेटिक एनर्जी भी हो सकती है. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, जब आप अपनी ट्यूब को वर्टिकल करोगे देन ऑफ कोर्स आपका जो पार्टिकल है, जो मेटल पीस है, दैट विल एक्सेलरेट ड्यू टू द gravitational pull, and when it accelerates it will start to speed up. And as we know, if a particle speeds up, it will have some sort of kinetic energy. So we can say kinetic energy में turn हो रहा है. Second, अगर जो पार्टिकल्स जो इसकी ट्यूब की बाउंड्रीज है उनके साथ हिट होता हुआ नीचे जाएगा, उनके साथ रब होता हुआ नीचे जाएगा, ऑफ कोर्स दैट विल प्रोड्यूस हीट ड्यू टू द फ्रिक्शन. आप अपना हाथ लें, अपना बाजू लें और अपने बाजू पे अपनी उंगलियां वो करें, रब करें. What will happen is that you will feel heat that is caused by friction. So you can say heat as well. And अगर आपके पास आपने एक इंस्ट्रूमेंट देखा होगा that if you shake, वो इंस्ट्रूमेंट को अगर आप शेक करो, that produces sound because it has beads inside it. So this tube is sound kind of like that. You can also say sound energy. ठीक है ना? So these are the three main types of energies being produced. अच्छा आगे. The pieces fall on average 1.2 meters during one turn. The total mass of the metal pieces 150 ग्राम. तो हमें उसका डिस्टेंस पता है कि कितना फॉल करता है और हमें पता चल गया उसका मास कितना है. Calculate the loss in gravitational potential energy to of the pieces as they fall once. The gravitational field strength G is 10 newtons per kilogram. So we have been given the distance, we have been given the mass, we have the gravitational field strength, and we have to find the GPE or the gravitational potential energy. This is a mad easy question for 2 marks. तो m हमारे पास होगा 0.15 because we have to turn the 150 grams into kilograms. 0.15 into m into g which is 10 or into h which is 1.2. This will give us the GPE which is 1.8 joules. So yeah, mad easy. 2 सेकंड का क्वेश्चन था. We have to use the formula mgh is equals to GPE. आगे चलते हैं. आगे, a student turns the tube quickly after the small metal pieces have fallen from one end to the other 80 times. So वो बहुत vigorously उसको shake कर रहा है and it is like producing a lot of heat. Their temperature has increased by 7 degrees Celsius. Determine the specific heat capacity of the metal. The specific heat capacity will be calculated using Q is equals to mc delta T. Delta T means the change in temperature. Q हमारे पास निकालने वाला है. Actually नहीं. C is specific heat capacity. Q है हमारे पास 1.8. अच्छा, हमने Q जो है ना वो हमने निकालना है calculating calculating it by multiplying 1.8 joules into 80 because that is the amount of energy produced once, right? That is the amount of energy produced once. 1.8 joules is the amount of energy produced once. What if you repeat the process 80 times? So that will be 1.8 into 80, which will be 144. 144 joules is equals to mass हमारे पास क्या है 0.15 into C into delta T which is 7. तो अगर हम ये करें 144 divided by 0.15 divided by 7. What will we get? We'll get 137 joules per kilogram centigrade. 137 or we can round it off to 140 joules per kg centigrade. ठीक है ना? So that is the specific heat capacity of this metal. The student repeats the experiment, turning the tube more slowly. Suggest what will happen. Suggest why a different temperature increase is obtained. That is because there will be more time for the heat loss. ठीक है ना? And it will have more time for the metal to cool down. ठीक है ना? So yeah, the tube will heat up and the friction with the tube will increase. And less kinetic energy will be produced. Less kinetic energy because the tube is being turned more slowly. That is why less kinetic energy will be like produced. सो या आगे चलते हैं. Question number three. Figure 3.1 shows a syringe mounted vertically in a block of wood and sealed at one end. So it is sealed at one end so that none of the air escapes. A plunger is free to move inside the syringe. The plunger is free to move depending on what the outward pressure is and the inward pressure. Inward pressure is plunger को afloat रख रहा है. The pressure is why the plunger is not falling down. ठीक है ना? There is trapped air inside the syringe. The air inside the syringe exerts the pressure on the wall of the syringe. ठीक है ना? We have to define what the term pressure means. The term pressure can be summarized with the formula pressure is equals to force divided by area, or you can write pressure force per unit area. It's the same thing. So yeah, let's move on. Explain how the air molecules in the cylinder of the syringe create a pressure. So I will tell you in three steps or three different explanations. क्योंकि ये 3 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन है, we cannot just write 1 mark का explanation. So yeah. So first of all, the gas molecules are in constant constant motion and in all directions. The gas molecules are in constant motion and in all directions. As we know, जो गैस होती है वो हर डायरेक्शन में मूव करती है. It does and in a straight line, है ना? So yeah, as the particles will move, they will collide with the inner surface of the cylinder's walls. As the air particles move, they will collide with the inner surfaces of the syringe, right? And lastly, each time a particle hits the plunger, इस plunger को hit करेगा, plunger, it exerts a force on it. तो अब मैं इसको समराइज करके लिख दिया है. जो ये है नहीं ट्रैप्ड एयर, इसके अंदर ना पार्टिकल्स हैं, राइट? एयर के पार्टिकल्स हैं. एंड जो एयर के पार्टिकल्स हैं, दोज आर इन कांस्टेंट मोशन. And when they are in the constant motions, the air particles will move and they will collide with the inner surfaces of syringe, right? They will collide with the inner surfaces of syringe, and each time the particle hits the plunger, it will exert the force on it. It will exert, मतलब यहाँ से एक particle आ रहा है, it will hit the plunger, it will go the other way, but the force was exerted in this way. Therefore, it will keep the plunger up. So yeah, 3 marks का क्वेश्चन है, you have to go in detail. आगे चलते हैं. A 10 Newton weight is placed on top of the plunger. अच्छा, यहाँ प्लंजर है हमारा और इस प्लंजर के ऊपर हमने रख दिया वेट, तो ऑफ कोर्स प्लंजर जाएगा नीचे, है ना? तो आगे पढ़ते हैं. The plunger moves down slowly so that the temperature of the air inside the syringe does not change. Before the weight is placed on top of the plunger, the pressure of the air inside this syringe is 1 into 10 raised to the power of 5 pascals. The volume is 50 centimeter cube. The cross-sectional area of the plunger is 1.2 into 10 raised to the power of minus 4. The cross-sectional area will be the circular or whatever the shape of the cross-sectional area is, like this. ठीक है ना? So yeah, we have to calculate the pressure of the air in the syringe after the plunger stops moving. After the plunger stops moving, we all know that the pressure is increased because when the plunger will go down, the plunger is going down, right? It will create a smaller volume. And as we know, as the volume decreases, the pressure increases because more particles are fit into that specific small space. So yeah, calculate the pressure. We have to calculate the pressure. तो हमने देखना है पहले पहले से हमारे पास है 1.0 into 10 raised to the power of 5 pascals and we have to calculate the excess pressure जो pressure अभी produce हुआ है by the placing of the 10 Newton weight on top of the plunger. So that will be calculated using the formula pressure is equals to force divided by area. Force is 10 and the area is 1.2 into 10 raised to the power of minus 4. If you do the math, you will get an answer of 83,333.333 pascals. ठीक है ना? But that will not be the lone, what do you call it, pressure. That this pressure will be added to the previous pressure that was already present inside the syringe. तो 100,000 प्लस कर देंगे हम 83,333. So that will be 18 183,333 pascals. We can round that off to 180,000. So yeah, pretty easy question. Calculate the volume of air inside the syringe after the plunger stops moving. We can calculate that using the formula P1 V1 is equals to P2 V2. P1 हमारे पास कितना है 100,000 into V1 हमारे पास कितना है 50 सेंटीमीटर क्यूब 50 P2 हमारे पास कितना है 183,333 into V2 हमने निकालना है तो let's calculate that 100,000 into 50 divided by 18,333. So that will give us 27 centimeter cube of volume. The new volume found will be 27 centimeter cube. आगे चलते हैं. Acha, question number 4 now. Figure 4.1 shows a ray of white light incident on a glass prism. As the white light incidents on the glass prism, it will become the component colors. ठीक है ना? Refraction causes the light to separate into different colors. Define the term of refraction. Angle of refraction. The angle of refraction will be the angle made between the normal and the refracted ray. अगर ये हमने normal बना दिया ना, this is the normal. So, angle made between the normal and the refracted ray. This will be the angle of refraction for violet and this will be the angle of refraction for red. The angle between the refracted ray and the normal. So yeah, ये हम लिख लेते हैं angle formed between the refracted ray and the normal. So let's move on. B. The angle of incidence of the white light as it enters the prism is 40 degrees and the angle of refraction for the red light is 25 degrees. Calculate the refractive index of the glass for red light. Show your working. So for this we're going to use the formula N is equals to sine I divided by sine R. ठीक है ना? N is equals to sine I हमारे पास क्या होगा? Sine 40 divided by sine 25. Do the math. So yeah, if you do the math, you'll get an answer of n is equals to 1.521. 1.521 को अगर हमने round off करना हो, that will be rounded off to 1.5. And that will be our answer. Let's move on. Using figure 4.1, state and explain how the refractive index for the red light differs from the refractive index of the violet light. The refractive index primarily decides what the angle of refraction will be. जितना कम refractive index होगा उतना ज्यादा angle of refraction होगा. समझ आ गई? The more the less the refractive index, the more the angle of refraction. So yeah, जितना कम angle, what do you call it? जितना कम refractive index होगा उतना ज्यादा angle of refraction होगा. And in this case, it is for red. In this case, और आगे हम एक और चीज नोटिस करें कि the angle of the refractive index determines what the how much the light will bend. ठीक है ना? How much the ray will bend is dependent on the refractive index. अच्छा, अब मैं entirely new answer लिख रहा हूँ. The refractive index for red light is lower than the refractive index of indigo है ना दूसरा कलर वायलेट ठीक है ना ये हमने लिख दिया है आगे जो डिफरेंस है द रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स मेक्स अ डिफरेंस हाउ अभी आपको मैंने बताया रेड का कम रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स है तो रेड विल इट विल बेंड लेस और वायलेट का ज्यादा रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स है तो वायलेट विल बेंड मोर ठीक है ना वी कैन राइट आल्सो दिस द डिफरेंस in refractive index will determine how much the bending will be. इसके डिफरेंट रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स की होने की वजह से व्हाइट लाइट टर्न्स इनटू कॉम्पोनेंट कलर्स दैट इज व्हाई इट इज टर्निंग इनटू कॉम्पोनेंट कलर्स बिकॉज इसका जो रिफ्रैक्टिव इंडेक्स है डिफरेंट कलर्स का दे आर डिफरेंट सो या आगे चलते हैं the source of white light used in figure 4.1 produces other electromagnetic radiation as well as visible light. State the name of the visible radiation found at P and the visible radiation found at Q. At P we can see अगर हमने P में देखना हो it is higher than red or violet. So it could generally be infrared. और जो Q है that is lower than violet. So I think it's ultraviolet. So yeah, those are the two. ये ऐसे लिख देती हूँ आगे चलते हैं क्वेश्चन नंबर 5 स्टूडेंट connects a battery thermistor X and resistor Y in parallel as shown in figure 5.1. This is the battery. ये thermistor X है और ये resistor Y है in parallel to that. So electromotive force EMF of the battery is E. The current in X is I. The resistance of Y is greater than the resistance of X. Take two boxes, one to show the correct statement about the potential difference across Y and the other to show the correct statement about the current in X, Y. The potential difference across Y. The potential difference across Y will be, first of all, जितना यहाँ से आएगा potential difference across Y and the potential difference across X will be the same. Let's assume यहाँ से 12 volts आ रहा है 12 volts यहाँ से आ रहा है यहाँ भी 12 volts जाएगा और यहाँ भी 12 volts जाएगा That's how it goes in parallel. As opposed to अगर ये सीरीज में लगे होते अगर सीरीज में लगे होते तो यहाँ थोड़ा सा ड्रॉप होता और यहाँ थोड़ा सा ड्रॉप होता है बट सिंस दे आर इन पैरेलल it is the same in every turn. So yeah, we can write same equal to. द करंट द करंट इन वाई। अच्छा, तो बेसिकली ना जो करंट होता है ना, इन व्हाट यू कॉल इट, पैरेलल, इट डिवाइड्स, द करंट डिवाइड्स अकॉर्डिंग टू व्हाट द रेजिस्टेंस इज। जितनी ज्यादा रेजिस्टेंस होगी उतना कम करंट होगा, बिकॉज दे आर इनवर्सली प्रोपोर्शनल। जितना ज्यादा रेजिस्टेंस, अगर रेजिस्टेंस ज्यादा होगी, करंट कम होगा। ठीक है ना? करंट कम होगा अगर रेजिस्टेंस ज्यादा होगी। तो वाई में हमारे पास रेजिस्टेंस ज्यादा है, तो दैट विल ऑटोमेटिकली मीन के करंट कम है, तो इट इज लेस देन आई। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, नाउ सेकंड ऑफ ऑल, आई टेल यू वन मोर थिंग, बट आई थिंक आगे जाके बताना ज्यादा जरूरी होगा। आगे, the student connects thermistor X in series with the resistor Y and a battery of EMF 6 volts as shown in figure 5.2। तो ये हमें अब सीरीज में नजर आ रहा है, सीरीज में डाल दिया 6 वोल्ट की बैटरी के साथ, सीरीज में थर्मिस्टर और रेजिस्टर दोनों लगा दिए हैं। At room temperature, the resistance of thermistor X is 600 ohms and the current in thermistor X is 2 ampere, 0.002 ampere. So as we know के in series, the current will stay the same across the whole circuit. The current will not change. So yeah, that is another fact. So because like उन्होंने बोला हुआ है ना in thermistor X, that is just to confuse you. समझ आ गई? तो अब पावर निकालनी है, पावर हम निकाल लेंगे, P पावर इज इक्वल टू करंट स्क्वायर इनटू रेजिस्टेंस। पावर इज इक्वल टू करंट स्क्वायर इनटू रेजिस्टेंस। तो करंट हमारे पास है 0.002, इसका हम स्क्वायर लेंगे इनटू रेजिस्टेंस, एंड दैट आई हैव ऑलरेडी कैलकुलेटेड, व्हिच इज 0.0024 वॉट्स। 0.0024 वॉट्स। सो या, आगे चलते हैं, कैलकुलेट द रेजिस्टेंस वाई। For us to calculate the resistance Y, first we'll have to calculate how much resistance the X has how much voltage the X has consumed. Because हमारे पास straight away तो पता ही नहीं है कि X में कितनी voltage use हो रही है और Y में कितनी voltage use हो रही है. So first we have to calculate how much voltage X has consumed. तो for that we'll have to apply the formula V is equals to IR. V हमने निकालना है, I is 0.002 into R हमारे पास 600 है, and if we calculate that we'll get V as 1.2। तो 1.2 volts यूज हो रहे हैं across this 1.2 volts। अगर 1.2 volts ये खा गया तो बाकी 4.8 volts इसके लिए बचे होंगे, है ना? तो यहाँ 4.8 volts आ जाएंगे। I can mathematically prove that as well by the total voltage minus 1.2 will give us 4.8 volts। तो 4.8 वोल्ट को हम अप्लाई कर देंगे अब दूसरी फॉर्मूला के अंदर। 4.8 इज इक्वल टू वी इज इक्वल टू आई आर, फिर से लगाएंगे बट इन अ डिफरेंट सेटिंग। इस टाइम हमारे पास वोल्टेज है लेकिन हमारे पास रेजिस्टेंस नहीं है। आई हमारे पास 0.002 और आर हमने निकालना है। तो विद दैट we'll get let's check 4.8 divided by 0.002, that will give us 2400 ohms। 2400 ohms will be the answer। So yeah, 3 marks। So the resistance has increased। So what happens when the resistance will increase here? यहाँ पे जो 4.8 previously voltage use हो रही थी, that will not stay the same, right? यहाँ पे अब कम voltage use होगी, because अब इसको भी voltage चाहिए। पहले सिर्फ इसको 1.2 चाहिए थी और इसको 4.8 चाहिए थी, they were living in harmony। बट ये आके अब कहता है आई नीड मोर वोल्टेज बिकॉज माई रेजिस्टेंस इज मोर। तो ये अब आके अपना फर्दर हक मांग रहा है। तो या यहाँ पे वोल्टेज कम होएगी और यहाँ पे इंक्रीज होएगी। रेजिस्टेंस जो आई हैव लाइक एक्सप्लेन मेनी टाइम्स, रेजिस्टेंस इज लाइक भूख एंड वोल्टेज इज लाइक खाना। जिसको जितना चाहिए होगा वो उतना लेगा और बाकी दूसरे वाले के पास चला जाएगा, राइट? तो या प्रोपोर्शनेटली। तो व्हाट विल हैपन इज दैट The resistance across X is increased, therefore it will require more voltage, in turn making the voltage in Y reduce. ठीक है ना? So yeah, that's the answer. आगे चलते हैं क्वेश्चन नंबर 6. Okay, lastly, question number 6. Figure 6.1 shows a part of a toy which contains two ring-shaped permanent magnets. तो ये ऊपर एक मैग्नेट है और एक नीचे मैग्नेट है. The plastic rod passes through the center of the both the magnets. Both magnets के बीच में एक plastic rod है to keep them aligned with each other. The top magnet can move up and down freely around the plastic rod. The magnetic poles on the bottom magnets are shown in figure 6.1. The top magnet floats in the air above the bottom magnet. On figure 6.1, mark the poles on the top magnet and explain why it floats in the air above the bottom magnet. अच्छा, जो poles हम बनाएंगे, since it is floating, that must mean there is a force of repulsion between them, right? Since they are floating, I will repeat it once again. Since they are floating, there must be a force of repulsion between both of them. ठीक है ना? And for repulsion to be possible, both of the facing sides should be the same pole. जब same poles होते हैं, they repel each other. And when there are unlike poles, they attract each other. So, in this case, they are repelling each other, therefore the poles must be same. So yeah, नीचे आ जाएगा यहाँ नॉर्थ आ जाएगा, ऊपर साउथ लिख लेते हैं, ऊपर साउथ लिख लें, कोई फायदा नहीं है लेकिन. एंड एक्सप्लेनेशन में हम लिख सकते हैं लाइक poles repel each other and that is why the top magnet is afloat. ठीक है ना? So yeah, you can write that. आगे चलते हैं. The top magnet is replaced with a ring made of iron. Explain why the iron sticks to the bottom of the magnet. अगर आपने कोई बचपन में मैग्नेट लिया हो तो वो जगह जगह जाके आप चिपकाते हो ना, दैट इज नॉट हाउ इट वर्क्स. इट द अदर थिंग बिकम्स मैग्नेट एज वेल. ठीक है ना? व्हेन यू ब्रिंग द आयरन नियर द मैग्नेट, जब आप आयरन को मैग्नेट के पास रखते हो, द आयरन बिकम्स मैग्नेटाइज्ड बाय द इंडक्शन टेम्परेरीली. जब आप आयरन को मैग्नेट के पास लाते हो, द आयरन बिकम्स अ टेम्परेरी मैग्नेट. आयरन जल्दी से थोड़ी देर के लिए वक्ती तौर पे मैग्नेट बन जाता है. एंड द बॉटम पोल्स ऑफ द आयरन विल बी साउथ एंड जो बॉटम मैग्नेट के अपर पोल्स हैं दोज आर नॉर्थ. सो दे विल बी अट्रैक्टिंग ईच अदर. ठीक है ना? सो वी कैन राइट when the iron is brought near the what do you call it, when the iron is brought near the magnet, the bottom magnet लिख लेते हैं, bottom magnet, the iron temporarily becomes a magnet due to induction. ठीक है ना? It temporarily becomes a magnet due to induction. The bottom poles of iron must be, what poles must the iron have for it to be attracted towards the bottom magnet? Bottom magnet के साथ attract होने के लिए iron के क्या poles होने चाहिए on the lower side? The iron should have south pole at the lower side. Iron must be south. ठीक है ना? So yeah, let's move on. B. A wire carrying a current passes at a right angle through the piece of paper. Figure 6.2 shows a cross and circle where the current is in the wire passes into the plane paper. तो ये हमें वायर दी हुई है. On figure 6.2, sketch three magnetic fields to show the magnetic field pattern around the wire. Show the direction of your field on your sketch. तो हमने इसकी बनाने three magnetic field lines. So as we know, it is a piece of paper, so we're gonna make the magnetic field lines, and those are gonna be circular. समझ आ गई? Those are gonna be circular. It is going into the paper, and the magnetic field lines are gonna be circular. तो या आगे हम बना लेते हैं इनको थोड़ा प्रिसाइसली. एंड लास्टली ये. एंड यूजिंग द राइट हैंड फर्स्ट रूल, लाइक राइट हैंड रूल अगर हम यूज करेंगे तो वी कैन इजिली फाइंड आउट दैट द डायरेक्शन इज क्लॉकवाइज. द डायरेक्शन इज क्लॉकवाइज. एंड वन मोर थिंग इज दैट कि जो every circle is more distance than the last circle. Every circle is more distant than the last circle because as we move away from the wire, the magnetic field lines will be more stretched apart because जो उसकी strength है that is reducing. The strength is reducing, therefore the lines will have more distance between them. So yeah, three things you have to keep in mind. Lines are circular around the wire. Second one will be using the right hand rule, determine the direction, which will be clockwise in this specific question. And the third one will be every magfield line will have greater distance since the strength is reducing as the बस ये लिख दें as the strength is reducing. So yeah, that is gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day. Please subscribe, like, and comment if you have any questions. Thank you for watching.